Well, I'm guessing that you will have seen my articles about the Birmingham City Council's banning of amplification equipment and musical instruments for buskers and for street performers, and most crucially for us, for street evangelists, the street preachers. And that is through a public space protection order, which affects a number of key streets in the city centre, exactly where buskers and evangelists tend to be. Now, I wanted to say a little bit about why, not just why I'm concerned about this and why I'm starting to get involved in responding to it, but why you should be too. And I recognise that most people watching will not be involved in any of those activities, will not be involved in busking or entertainment or in street evangelism in Birmingham city centre. Though some of you may be involved in some of those types of activities elsewhere in Birmingham or elsewhere in the country. So why should you be concerned? Is it actually going to affect you? And what I want to do in this video is just deal with one specific issue. You see, what Birmingham City Council will claim, and in fact are claiming, is that this was the only option left to them, that they were dealing with an issue where there were complaints and where noise pollution levels had exceeded what was acceptable environmentally. And so they had to take action to stop it, and that there was nothing else that they could do. Well, I would say yes, there are things that they could do. Obviously there are noise abatement orders that they could give, but if those are ineffective, there are further actions that they can do which specifically target the perpetrators, those that are actually causing the problem, and don't put a blanket ban on everybody that is just getting on with their life and trying to do lawful and legitimate things. But what the council have done is they've followed a time-honoured approach. What I would say is the easy approach, by having a blanket crackdown on anybody involved in those kinds of activities in a specific area, to effectively clear that area of buskers and street preachers and street entertainers, to make that a sort of a free zone. That's the kind of nuclear option and the easy option, because it doesn't involve you getting involved in having to sort of target and identify and deal with the real problem and the real culprits. But as well as that affecting innocent parties disproportionately in the city centre, what we know is that kind of action does one thing. There's one consequence. It moves the problem. So what I would expect to see is that those that don't care about causing noise pollution, don't care about being a nuisance to others, maybe even revel in it, will move elsewhere. So the problem will just move a few streets on. And then the council can, of course, extend the ban, extend the restrictions, but then it will just move again. I remember when I was the pastor of a church in Bearwood, we had a certain level of problems with street prostitution, and we also had a number of rough sleepers, homeless people, and that was always present. But we also would notice that from time to time it would significantly increase, and you knew that at that point There was a crackdown against rough sleeping or against prostitution happening in Birmingham, focusing on the city centre, focusing on the places where it was considered a blight, considered not acceptable, without concern that that simply moved an issue elsewhere. Now, we as a church loved to respond, to welcome those rough sleepers, to feed them, to give them some warm space on a Sunday evening, to involve them in our Sunday evening meeting, and to share the gospel with them. But that doesn't take away from the fact that there still was a problem for those living and working in Bearwood. So, here's the first thing. Here's why you should be concerned. Even if you have no involvement or interest in busking or street preaching and street evangelism, even if you don't like those things, even if you would prefer that people didn't do them, the reality is this, that if there is a noise nuisance problem, what the council's actions are going to do is they're going to move it. They're going to move it into other parts of the city and over the borders, into Sandwell and into Walsall and into Wolverhampton. It will simply move, and you will find that problem on your doorstep and exacerbated, because it will be in areas less well equipped for that kind of noise, that kind of environment. So that's the first thing. Secondly, you should be concerned because if you are concerned for evangelism, then it means, and if you're involved in evangelism, then what you're going to see is that the scope will be extended, that other things will be included, and that the geographical area will be included. So it might start to touch on your activities. And if you're not from Birmingham, then what you will be seeing is that just as that this kind of thing is happening in a number of councils, a number of council cities up and down the country, that precedents are being set and other local authorities are watching, and other interested parties are watching and learning and following. So what happens in Birmingham will spread. It will happen in Manchester, it will happen in Liverpool, it will happen in Leeds, Bradford, Newcastle, Sunderland. So it's important that we get this right, we get our response right here in Birmingham, because it will affect others as well. And that's why you should be interested. What I'll encourage you at the moment to be doing is, if you live in Birmingham, actually write to the local authority, write to the environmental planning team and raise your concerns. If you live outside of Birmingham, I would encourage you to be praying for us. Just coming back to those of you that live in Birmingham that have an interest in this, what I would do is I would write politely but firmly, and I would explain, first of all, that you fully support the council in its desire to protect businesses and protect residents from noise pollution. Maybe even talk about what you find is a challenge. But I would also then go on to say why you don't believe that this response is proportionate, and also about the consequences that you're concerned about for the rest of the city. Well, thanks for listening in. If you want to contact me about this, you can do that you can leave a public message in the comments, or you can contact me via faceroute.com. There's a contact page there.